Hello, my name is Brian Cronin. Welcome to part 3 of this tutorial, Opposition EQE Paper C. I'm assuming you have followed part 1, Assimilating and Organizing Information, and part 2 of the tutorial, Planning. In part 3, I will go through the motions of writing the statement of opposition. I will present my own specimen statement of opposition and make some comments as to how you can develop your own statement of opposition. Now, what is the end product of the opposition paper? The end product consists of a notice of opposition, which is EPO form 2300 filled in, and a structured statement of opposition, which is an annex to the form. The statement includes effective date of claims, prior art evidence, and a series of attacks in principle, claim by claim, one claim after the other. The end product, as defined above, is complete. You are not expected to make notes to the client or the examiner. Making notes to the client or the examiner is given no credit and is a complete waste of time. We'll begin by considering the official Notice of Opposition Form 2300. Make yourself familiar with the EPO Notice of Opposition form before you begin. Bring your own copy of Form 2300 to the exam, highlighting the sections you need to fill in as a prompt for filling in the form provided during the examination. Be sure to name the opponent, to pay the opposition fee and sign the form, etc. Name the opponent's representative and so on. The statement of opposition is formally an annex to Form 2300. See section Roman 7, Facts, Rule 76.2c EPC. You can identify the statement of opposition as an annex to the Notice of Opposition form, but this is not essential. There is no need for you to fill up this form at the beginning of the opposition period. You can do it as an interlude after having finished your plan, which is quite hard work, and before writing the attacks, which is more hard work. No credit is given for filling up the Form 2300. You can only lose credit by incompletely filling it or not filling it at all. It's a waste of time to repeat wording from the form in your statement of opposition. There is also no advantage in dispensing with the form and instead including the relevant information in your statement of opposition. Next, we turn to the opening of your statement of opposition, which is the effective dates of the claims. You can always begin your statement of opposition by establishing the effective dates of the claims. For this, you bring in the facts that determine the effective dates, quote the legal basis where needed, and where claims cover alternatives, for example, alternative dependencies, split the claims as appropriate and identify different claim segments and establish their respective dates. As necessary, you argue for entitlement or non-entitlement to priority, and your statement of the effective claim dates serves as a precursor to establishing which prior art is available against which claims. Let's now consider a specimen of how to set out the effective dates for the claims of the 2015C exam. Header, effective dates of the claims. This statement is based on the notes you made at the outset in part 1 of the tutorial. Going back to your old notes is a welcome change of pace at this stage. You should be able to write this section without losing any time. So it begins. Claims 1, 2, and 5 are based on the content of the priority document US 10 545717 and are entitled to priority. Their effective date is 15 October 2009. Claims 3 and 6 were not disclosed in the priority document. There is a counterpart description to claims 3 and 6, respectively, in paragraphs 17 and 18 of the opposed patent A1, but this description was also not disclosed in the priority document. Consequently, claims 3 and 6 are not entitled to priority, and their effective date is 4 October 2010. Claim 4, which was added during examination, covers two alternatives when it is dependent on claim 2, in inverted commas, claim 4.2, and when it depends on claim 3, in inverted commas, claim 4.3. Each of claims 2 and 3 depends on claim 1, and we continue on the next slide. The feature of claim 4, piezoelectric material comprising P27, was disclosed in the priority entitled paragraph 14 of A1. It follows that because A2 is entitled to priority, claim 2, is entitled to priority, see above, claim 4.2 is also entitled to priority, and its effective date is therefore 15 October 2009. However, the combined subject matter of claims 4 and 3 is nowhere disclosed in A1 or its priority document. The subject matter of claim 3, a damper comprising a composite of a matrix of fibers of piezoelectric material, is disclosed in paragraph 17 of A1, but in that disclosure, the piezoelectric material PGGB is PGGB, not P27, as specified in claim 4. As the subject matter of claim 4 combined with claim 3 was first disclosed during examination, claim 4.3 is in contravention of Article 100C EPC and is not entitled to the priority date nor the filing date of A1. So there's a statement, and it makes quite a nice hors d'oeuvre for the statement of opposition, the next section of which will introduce the prior art. First, some notes on the prior art and evidence. On the EPO Notice of Opposition form, the prior art is organized under the caption Roman 9, Evidence Presented. But the client asks you not to use that page of the form. Therefore, you have to improvise your own presentation of the prior art as an introductory part of your statement of opposition. Practice doing this in a few different formats. State the publication date of each document and, where necessary, its filing or priority date. Preferably state which document is prior art under Article 54.2 or under Article 54.3 against which claims. In addition, you should provide evidence such as proposed declarations. The supplied copies of the cited documents actually constitute evidence of the facts you introduce. In addition, you are expected to provide evidence in the form of declarations and state witnesses and so on. It's frequent in paper C to have to provide further evidence. Next is a specimen answer on the presentation of the prior art that you can elaborate based on the notes you made earlier. Header, prior art, and evidence. Annex 2 has two relevant publication dates. A2 oral presentation consists of paragraphs 1 to 10 and figures 1 and 2, and was published by oral disclosure by Sam Corleycrest at a public trade fair Skip, Hop and Jump at Seattle in September 2009, before the priority date of A1. A2 oral presentation is consequently prior art under Article 54.2 against all claims of A1. A2 blog consists of paragraphs 1 to 10 and figures 1 and 2, and was published on the internet on 18 September 2010, i.e. after the priority date and before the application date of A1. Consequently, A2 blog is prior art under Article 54.2 EPC against claims of A1 not entitled to priority, that is, against claims 3 and 6 of A1. Publication of A2 blog on the internet is attested by the stamp http blog snowconecorp.com 2010 September 18. We offer Ms. Della Udevenis as witness to attest the publication of A2 oral presentation and A2 blog, and will present her evidence in due time by declaration and by hearing as witness if needed. Note then that A2 required detailed presentation or evidence to establish its publication, and this we offered in the form of evidence by Ms. Udevenis. The other documents A2 to A6 are simpler to present. See over. We continue. A3, A4, and A5 were all published well before A1's priority date, 15 October 2009, and each prior art under Article 54.2 EPC against all claims of A1 for the purpose of novelty and inventive step. A6 was published 3 April 2010 and is prior art under Article 54.2 EPC for the purposes of novelty and inventive step against those claims of A1 that are not entitled to priority, namely claims 3 and 6. A6 is a European patent application that was published 3 April 2010 after A1's priority date, 15 October 2009, but filed 3 October 2009, also with an earlier priority date, which was before A1's priority date. Consequently, A6 is prior art under Article 54.3 EPC for the purpose of novelty against those claims of A1 that are entitled to priority, namely claims 1, 2, 4, 2, and 5. This completes the presentation of the prior art. It covers some substantive issues and justifies a detailed presentation. 17 marks were available for the effective dates of the claims and the presentation of prior art, as well as the marks for added subject matter on claim 4 when it depends on 3. All this represents about 25.5 minutes writing time. This represents a relaxed warm-up for writing the attacks, and you are already rewarded by some credit. We now turn to some notes on the series of attacks that follow. Here are a few guidelines for your attacks. The main body of your statement of opposition consists of a series of individual attacks, mainly claim by claim in turn. The simplest organization is claim 1, claim 2, claim 3, blah, 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 right down to claim 6. The simplest sequence or organization of each argument is claim ground document. For example, claim 1, lack of novelty over document so-and-so. If a claim falls for lack of novelty over different documents, it's usual and expected for you to present several lack of novelty attacks. If a claim could potentially fall for lack of inventive step, starting from different documents as close as prior art, you are expected to select the best attack and to present only the best attack. You can present arguments for non-compliance with Article 100C separately, for example, where the objection concerns the description, or you can present these arguments in connection with the claim with which they are connected. Lastly, if you convincingly attack a claim for non-compliance with Article 100C for added subject matter, you need not attack the same claim for lack of novelty or lack of inventive step. The simplest organization then is that you write the attacks sequentially following your plan, list your attacks against each claim. Novelty will be the first ground attack, so we'll start with some notes on arguing lack of novelty. Typically, you can start with an underlined header, like, for example, lack of novelty of claim 9 in view of A7. Begin your argument by stating A7 discloses, and then follow with a recitation of the claim 9 in other words, with interjected explanations. Break the claim down into successive phrases covering the technical features, and if appropriate, break it down into several different paragraphs, and explain why each corresponding feature of A7 is the same as the claim feature, or why it falls under the claim feature. In addition, you must identify all imported information in the document and paragraph by the document and paragraph number. Don't take anything for granted. Make use of cross definitions from different documents, and we're continuing on the next slide. Here is some more guidance for your lack of novelty attacks. Preferably finish with a conclusion like, as A7 discloses all of the features of Claim 9 in combination, Claim 9 lacks novelty under Article 54.2 EPC, or as the case may be, under Article 54.3 EPC, or you could have, there are various alternative formulations are possible. For example, A7 therefore discloses the entire subject matter of Claim 7, so this claim is not novel, Article 54.2. Credit for lack of novelty attacks is principally for the convincing way you make use of information from the opposed claim, and especially from the attacking document, and for identifying the source of the quoted information, typically the paragraph number. Making a word-by-word equation for a lack of novelty attack is simple but is time-consuming and requires great concentration. Therefore, it needs some practice to become proficient, and you have to practice because arguing for lack of novelty is not a customary part of the attorney's work that you do every day in your office. You can compare this with the lack of novelty arguments provided by EPO examiners. However, note that the EPO examiner's arguments are often not up to the standard expected in the EQE. Now we turn to a first specimen answer for a lack of novelty attack. Claim 1 lacks novelty in view of A2 oral presentation. To make this argument, you need to have Claim 1 visible and you need to have A2 open so you can import the successive features from your notes. Let's go. A2 oral presentation discloses a sports article, namely a snowboard, A2 paragraph 1, etc. Having an elongate body, A2 figure 2 shows a snowboard with an elongate body, having a core wherein the thickness of the core varies along the longitudinal axis of the elongate body, A2 paragraph 3, the core is machined so that the snowboard varies in thickness according to figure 1, which is along the longitudinal axis, A2 paragraph 2. And at least one damper, A2 paragraphs 5 and 8, that comprises piezoelectric material, A2 paragraph 7, P27, and an electronic component, A2 paragraph 8. Then the conclusion is, as A2 oral presentation discloses all of the features of Claim 1 in combination, the claim lacks novelty under Article 54.2 EPC. Note how I have identified the source information. Now we'll turn to a second attack for lack of novelty. This is headed, Claim 1 lacks novelty in view of A5. A5 discloses a sports article, namely a ski, A5 title, paragraph 1, etc. A ski is a sports article for gliding on snow that has an elongate body, A1, paragraph 1. Confirmed by A5 figure 1, which shows a ski with an elongate body. Having a core wherein the thickness of the core varies along the longitudinal axis of the elongate body, A5 paragraph 3. The core is thinner at the shovel and tail and thicker at the waist. In other words, varying thickness along the longitudinal axis. And at least one damper, A5 paragraph 5, as the electronic system dampens the unwanted oscillation mode, it constitutes a damper. A5's electronic system damper comprises piezoelectric material, A5 paragraph 4, and an electronic component. A5's control circuit, 85, is part of the electronic system 80, A5 figure 2. The control circuit may be an integrated circuit, A5 paragraph 6, which according to A1 paragraph 16 is an electronic component. The conclusion is, as A5 discloses the entire subject matter of Claim 1, the claim lacks novelty under Article 54.2 EPC. You'll notice that the framework of the Claim 1 wording is the same, but the imported facts from A5 are different. Next, a third attack for lack of novelty of Claim 1. Claim 1 lacks novelty in view of A6. A6 discloses a sports article, namely a golf club, A6 paragraph 5, etc. That a golf club is a sports article is known from A6 paragraph 8. The golf club's elongated shaft 92, A6 paragraph 5, is an elongated body which can also be seen from A6 figure 2. Having a core wherein the thickness of the core varies along the longitudinal axis of the elongate body, A6 paragraph 5. The shaft core is filled, the tube wall is of constant thickness, but the inner diameter tapers from the grip 95 to the head 96, meaning that the core thickness varies along the longitudinal axis. The golf club comprises at least one damper, namely 3 dampers, A6 paragraph 7, that comprise piezoelectric material, A6 paragraph 7, and an electronic component, namely circuitry comprising an integrated circuit, A6 paragraph 7, which according to A1 paragraph 16 is an electronic component. Thus, A6, which is prior art under Article 54.3 EPC for Claim 1, discloses all of the features of Claim 1 in combination, so the claim lacks novelty. Notice the slightly different conclusion bringing in Article 54.3 EPC. Now we turn to some notes on arguing lack of inventive step. For the presentation of your arguments on lack of inventive step, you have a very wide choice of wording according to your personal approach, but your arguments must follow the problem and solution format. You must use the problem and solution approach because your client instructs you to follow the guidelines. Moreover, the exam is set up to test your ability to implement the problem and solution approach, and the documents provide you with all the information you need to implement the problem and solution approach. In addition, the problem and solution approach provides you with a structured way of presenting your arguments. Here then are the steps of the problem and solution approach: closest prior art, differentiating features, technical effect associated with the differentiating features, the objective technical problem, and reasons for obviousness. Here are some notes on the different steps of the problem solution format, beginning with the closest prior art. You must provide a short factual, I underline factual, reason why your chosen document constitutes the closest prior art for the given claim. You have to avoid blanket statements like A7 is the closest prior art because it has the same purpose as the claim. Instead, you have to explain what is the purpose of the claim and how or why the prior art has the same purpose. In other words, you have to set out the facts. In the opposition paper C, it's not useful to explain why other documents are less relevant as closest prior art. That's something you may wish to do in the B paper where it's useful, but in the C paper it's not necessary. And having set out what is the closest prior art, you mustn't jump straight away to the differentiating feature. First, you have to explain all of the features that the closest prior art document has in common with the claim, and you can do this using a word-by-word equation as for a lack of novelty attack. Next, the differentiating features. You have to explain which feature of the claim, of the opposed claim, differentiates it over the closest prior art. It's usually easy to pinpoint the differentiating feature, and that's not too difficult, but you shouldn't explain what differentiates the prior art over the claim. What differentiates the claim over the prior art, not the prior art over the claim. As you have several inventive step attacks, or you have to make several inventive step attacks against the opposed patent, it's good to practice several different varied wording patterns so you can work some variety into your different attacks, and the same applies to all of the other formatted wordings of the problem and solution approach. We now turn to the associated technical effect. You can express the technical effect associated with the claim's differentiating features in terms that you derive from the counterpart of the opposed claim in the opposed patent's description. For this, you have to go back to the A1 description to where you highlighted the effect and the claim counterpart in A1, and you can copy the effect with editing if needed. You must also quote the paragraph of A1 that you rely on for establishing the technical effect. As I said, usually the technical effect is not too difficult to handle, and it leads to the objective technical problem. Here you have to ask the question, what technical problem does the skilled person solve, and what does he or she achieve in going from the closest prior art to the claimed invention? Your choice of the objective technical problem can be inspired by, firstly, the technical effect associated with the differentiating features that you may want to somehow abbreviate, and you can also use this chosen how the chosen secondary document solves the problem, you can use the secondary prior art to help set up or focus the problem that you're going to solve. You have to express the objective technical problem in your own words, so expressing the objective problem is subjective. Above all, do not put elements of the opposed claim, which is the solution to the problem, into the problem itself. Next, we turn to some notes on the reasons for obviousness. This is the part of the argument that carries the greatest credit, and it is also the part of the argument where many candidates lose marks. It is the most difficult part to present and to bring the argument to a convincing conclusion. You can begin by introducing the secondary document, explaining in one way or another why the skilled person faced with a given problem would turn to the document. You may want to say that's in the same technical field, it deals with the same problem, it discloses a solution to the problem, it has possibly pointers to the solution, why the suggested combination leads to the subject matter of the opposed claim, and possibly that there is no obstacle to making the combination if that happens to be the case. For this part of the argument, you must always bring in facts from the document. It's difficult. It requires you to improvise from the notes and highlighting you made on the documents. The better your notes and the better you rehearse the arguments during planning, the more complete and convincing your arguments will be, and the quicker you will be able to write them. Remember, however, the more you write, the quicker you have to write. We continue over. The penultimate paragraph of the argument, that is the paragraph just before the conclusion, is usually the most difficult one. Here we have the most problems. There is a tendency here to break down into an assertive mode. Assertive mode you can recognize especially from objections made by US Patent Office examiners, also occasionally from EPO examiners, as well as from real-life European opponents. So you want to avoid this, saying things like this. It was obvious for the skilled person to do such and such an obvious step, therefore the claim is obvious. That's like arguing, it's obvious because it's obvious, therefore it's obvious, which is a circular argument. Instead, you need to substitute some wording, such as A5 teaches a skilled person to do this or that, leading to the subject matter of the opposed claim as a matter of routine. Just as a general rule, this is my own personal rule, you should avoid using the word obvious until the last concluding sentence. And you should end with the conclusion to the argument, like, therefore claim 1 must be considered obvious and lacking an inventive step within the meaning of Article 56 EPC, or perhaps a simpler conclusion. Now we'll look at a specimen argument for lack of inventive step of Claim 2. Claim 2 lacks inventive step in view of A3 plus A4. The subject matter of Claim 2 combines the features of Claims 1 and 2. This first line simply recalls the subject matter of Claim 2 depends on Claim 1. Continues, A3 is the closest prior art for assessing inventive step. Because it discloses a unidirectional snowboard, A3 paragraph 4, for the purpose of high-speed riding, A3 paragraph 1, which is the same purpose as the opposed patent, A1 paragraph 6, for racing downhill. A3 is the only document in the cited prior art relating to a unidirectional snowboard. Then we continue with the disclosure of the features from A3. A3 discloses the following features of Claim 2. A3's unidirectional snowboard paragraph 4 constitutes a sports article comprising an elongate body A1 paragraph 1 having at least one damper, second setup A3 paragraph 9, comprising piezoelectric material A3 paragraph 4 and an electronic component dissipative electronic circuit A3 paragraph 6. The damper's piezoelectric material is formed into at least one flat piece, namely a monolithic platelet A3 paragraph 4. A1 paragraph 13 states that a monolithic platelet is an example of a flat piece. And we continue. A3's damper is arranged on the elongate body snowboard so as to dampen torsional modes of the sports article snowboard A3 paragraph 6. So this part of the argument summarizes A3 in my words. You need to express the same idea in your own words depending on your perception of the document. That applies to all attacks. Next we turn to the differentiating feature. The feature of Claim 2 that distinguishes it over A3's disclosure, is that the thickness of the elongated body's core varies along the longitudinal axis of the elongate body, the snowboard. A3's snowboard inherently has a core that extends along the longitudinal axis, but there is no disclosure that its thickness varies along the longitudinal axis. The distinguishing feature is associated with the effect that there is a better adaptation of the snowboard to the anatomy of a user standing on it, which in turn improves ergonomics. A1, paragraph 9. The objective technical problem solved in going from A3 to Claim 2 can thus be expressed as to modify A3's snowboard to improve its ergonomics. So having set out the problem solved, we turn to the reasons for obviousness. We continue. The skilled person, starting from A3 and seeking to improve its ergonomics, will consult documents dealing with the same problem. This leads a skilled person to A4, which relates to an ergonomic snowboard A4 title, and explains that there is a need for improved sports board, which reduces wear on a user and allows riding comfortably also at higher speeds, A4 paragraph 1. A4 further explains that its ergonomic snowboard's upper surface is curved so the ergonomics for the user are improved, A4 paragraph 3. Curvature of the upper surface layer is achieved simply by locally increasing the height W of the core, A4 paragraph 5, for example as shown in A4's figure 2. We now continue. A4 teaches that the described improvement of ergonomics by varying the height of the core is applicable to any sports article ridden in a standing position, A4 paragraph 8. Thus, the skilled person understands that the same principle applies to snowboards and in particular to unidirectional snowboards like that of D3 designed for riding at higher speeds, A3 paragraph 1, which is also an aim of A4, see A4 paragraph 1. And we turn over and we come to the penultimate paragraph, which is a difficult one. The teaching of A4 thus leads the skilled person to modify A3's snowboard by locally increasing the height of its core at mounting sections in order to improve ergonomics. This leads directly to varying the thickness of the core along the longitudinal axis of the snowboard, so the resulting snowboard falls under Claim 2. This result is achieved simply by following A4's teaching with no inventive input whatsoever. And the conclusion, it follows that the subject matter of Claim 2 is obvious, and this claim does not involve an inventive step as required by Article 56 EPC. As I explained, there is a danger that your penultimate paragraph may break down into an assertion. It was obvious for the skilled person to do this or that, so be careful how you handle it. Note that in my example, the word obvious comes in only in the concluding phrase. Note also that the total argument is quite long. The length results from a combination of the problem solution format and the client's requirement to bring in the maximum facts from the documents. This length corresponds to 18 available marks, which represents a fairly substantial writing time, about 27 minutes. Next, we turn to Claim 3. Claim 3 lacks inventive step in view of A2 oral presentation and blog and A6. The subject matter of Claim 3 combines the features of Claim 1 and Claim 3. And the argument begins. A2 is the closest prior art for assessing inventive step because it discloses a freestyle snowboard, A2 paragraph 3. As disclosed in A1 paragraph 6, a freestyle snowboard enables bidirectional use, especially for acrobatic maneuvers. That is, it has a specific purpose. A2's freestyle snowboard necessarily has turned-up ends like those of A1, Figure 1, for the same purpose of enabling bidirectional use. A2 is the only document in the cited prior art relating to a freestyle snowboard. As demonstrated above, A2 discloses all of the features of Claim 1. So that is a shortcut. It's a streamlined part of the argument. Additionally, as mentioned, A2 discloses a freestyle snowboard, A2 paragraph 3. Then we have the differentiating feature. Claim 3's freestyle snowboard differs from that of A2 by the feature that its damper comprises a composite of a matrix and fibers of the piezoelectric material. We continue over with the effect of the differentiating feature. This differentiating feature is associated with the effect that the matrix is not brittle, which reduces the risk of breaking, A1 paragraph 17, and improves reliability of the damper, A1 paragraph 15. The objective problem can be expressed as reducing the risk of breaking, thus improving the reliability of the damper. Then we turn to the secondary document. A6 relates to flexible piezoelectric films title and discusses overcoming the problem of breaking such films used as dampers, A6 paragraphs 1 and 2. The skilled person aiming to solve the given problem will hence turn to A6. Then we recite what A6 discloses. A6 discloses that the piezoelectric material RZCH is transformed into fibers that are embedded in a flexible polymer resin, A6 paragraph 3. According to A1 paragraph 17, a flexible polymer resin constitutes a matrix. A6's matrix, after molding and curing, provides a flexible piezoelectric film, A6 paragraph 3. This flexible piezoelectric film can be attached to snowboards to damp undesired vibrations, A6 paragraph 8. It can replace monolithic platelets, leading to dampers which are less complex to manufacture and are more reliable, A6 paragraph 9, since they have overcome the breakage problem, A6 paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. Next slide for the penultimate paragraph and the conclusion. Penultimate paragraph. Following A6's teaching, the skilled person seeking to reduce breakage and increase the reliability of A2's damper will replace A2's monolithic platelets with A6's flexible piezoelectric film in the form of a matrix, thus arriving at the subject matter of Claim 3 without having made an inventive step. And the conclusion, therefore, the subject matter of Claim 3 is obvious within the meaning of Article 6 EPC. This attack was slightly shorter and was worth 14 points according to the examiner's report, which represents about 21 minutes writing time. Then we continue with Claim 4 when it depends on Claim 2. I planned this as a streamlined follow-up attack from the previous attack for lack of inventive step of Claim 2. Here is how it fleshed out. Claim 4.2 lacks inventive step in view of A3 and A4. Claim 4.2 combines the subject matter of Claims 1, 2 and 4. It was shown above that the subject matter of Claim 2 together with Claim 1 is obvious starting from A3 as closest prior art and bringing in A4. Claim 4.2 adds a feature over Claim 2 of P27 as piezoelectric material. However, A3 paragraph 4 already disclosed P27. It follows that the subject matter of Claim 4.2 is reached by the same obvious combination as described for Claim 2, i.e. starting from Claim 3 as closest prior art and bringing in A4. Consequently, Claim 4.2 does not involve an inventive step as required by Article 56 EPC. Obviously, this is much simpler and shorter than the previous inventive step attacks. Consequently, it attracts less credit, 5 marks according to the examiner's report for Claim 4.2, as opposed to 18 marks for Claim 2 and 14 marks for Claim 3. 5 marks represents about 7.5 minutes writing time. Remember, all attacks are not equal, so as you don't have an indication of the available marks when you're doing the exam, you have to gauge your efforts according to the perceived substance of the attack. Now we turn to Claim 4 when it depends on Claim 3. This attack for contravention of Article 100C EPC can be placed here in the claim sequence, or if you prefer, you can present it as a separate attack at the beginning. Claim 4.3 illicitly adds subject matter in contravention of Article 100C EPC. Claim 4.3 combines the subject matter of Claims 1, 3 and 4. Claim 4 was added during examination. However, the combined subject matter of Claims 1, 3 and 4 is nowhere disclosed in A1 as filed or in its priority document. The subject matter of Claim 3, damper comprising a composite of a matrix of fibers of piezoelectric material, is disclosed in paragraph 17 of A1, where the piezoelectric material is PGGB, not P27, as specified in Claim 4. P27 is disclosed in A1 only for flat pieces like a monolithic platelet, A1, paragraph 13, never embedded in a matrix. As the subject matter of Claim 4 combined with Claim 3 was first disclosed during examination and not in the original application documents, Claim 4.3 is in contravention of Article 100C EPC. Note that there is no point in making a second attack for lack of novelty or lack of inventive step against Claim 4.2, namely lack of inventive step. Now we turn to Claim 5. As Claim 5 is an independent claim, there is no need for the previous introductory line, which was appropriate for the dependent claim. So the argument begins, as A5 is the closest prior art for assessing inventive step, A5 is the closest prior art for assessing inventive step because it discloses A5 paragraph 7, a damper for the purpose of frequency selective damping of oscillation modes in a sports article, which is the same purpose as Claim 5. Furthermore, and unlike A3, A5 discloses the following features of Claim 5 in combination. damper, A5 paragraph 5, an electronic system which dampens is a damper. Damper suitable for frequency selective damping, A5 paragraph 7 of a sports article, snow skis. A first flat piece of piezoelectric material, one of the monolithic platelets 83, A5 paragraph 4, A1 paragraph 13, specifies that monolithic platelets are flat pieces. Suitable for sensing oscillation modes, A5 paragraph 7. A second flat piece of piezoelectric material, A5 paragraph 4, which is another of the aforesaid monolithic platelets, suitable for imparting damping, A5 paragraph 5, and an integrated circuit, A5 paragraph 6, electrically connected to flat pieces, A5 paragraph 6, figure 2. Then we turn to the differentiating feature. Claim 5 differs from A5 in that its integrated circuit is frequency selective for frequencies in this range between 30 and 80 Hertz. It continues then with the effect. The effect of this differentiating feature is that damping is focused on the unwanted oscillation modes in the given frequency range, which improves reduction of chatter, A1 paragraph 16. We turn to the objective problem. The objective problem is to provide a damper for frequency selective damping in a sports article which reduces chatter. And then we turn to the reasons. The skilled person seeking to reduce chatter in a damper for frequency selective damping of oscillation modes in a sports article will consult A3 recent results on snowboard oscillation modes, which discloses in paragraph 2 that chatter is caused in snowboards by torsional modes at frequencies between 30 to 80 Hertz. It also discloses in paragraph 8 that in its first setup, the coupler's dampers allow only frequencies between 30 and 80 Hertz to pass. The setup couples better to the torsional modes causing chatter. In other words, it helps to reduce chatter. So far, so good. We continue. A3 thus provides a skilled person with an incentive to replace the microcontroller of A5's coupler damper for snow skis, which is frequency selective for a range of 10 to 25 Hertz, with one that is frequency selective for a range of 30 to 80 Hertz. The incentive would be particularly great when the damper is intended for snowboards, following A3 paragraph 2, given that A5 paragraph 6 states that its control circuit could be attached to other types of sports equipment. A snowboard is a comparable type of sports equipment to a snow ski, A1 paragraph 1. Penultimate paragraph then. The skilled person would thus arrive at a damper for a snowboard coming within the scope of Claim 5 by simply following A3's teaching without any inventive insight or contribution. Claim 5, therefore lacks an inventive step in contravention of Article 56 EPC. Note that the attack was of medium length and was attributed 15 marks, which represents about 22.5 minutes writing time. Then we go to Claim 6. Claim 6 lacks inventive step in view of A2, blog, and oral presentation, and A3. Closest prior art. A2 is the closest prior art for assessing inventive step because it discloses A2 paragraph 6, a method for positioning a damper on a sports article with an elongate body subjected to torsion, A2 paragraphs 5 and 6, which is the same purpose as Claim 5, A1 paragraph 18. Then What does A2 disclose? A2's method comprises providing an elongate body having a core wherein the thickness of the core varies along the longitudinal axis of the elongate body. See A2, paragraph 2, 3, and figure 2. Providing at least one damper, A2, paragraph 5 and 7, comprising piezoelectric material, P27, A2, paragraph 7, and an embedded electronic component, A2, paragraph 8, and positioning a damper at the right spot or sweet spot, A2, paragraph 5, by repeatedly positioning the damper and determining how good the damping is. A2, paragraph 6. Next, we continue with the differentiating feature. Claim 6 differs from A2 by the feature of selecting a position for the damper by measuring, without the mounted damper, the amplitude of a torsional mode of the elongate body at a plurality of locations and mounting the damper at the selected position, which is a position of high mechanical stress, A1, paragraphs 11, 12, and 18. This differentiating feature has the effect that it is not necessary to repeatedly mount the damper to find out whether it is in the right position, thus saving time. The objective problem solved can be expressed as modifying A2's method in order to save time. Now we come to the reasons. Annex 3, entitled Recent Results on Snowboard Oscillation Modes, will be of interest to the skilled person, as it discusses a method of iterating the location of couplers, sensors, dampers on a snowboard subjected to torsional stresses, A3, paragraph 2 and 3, to locate locations of highest mechanical stress, A3, paragraph 5, and we continue over. Paragraph 10 of A3 reports an approximation technique for approximating the locations of highest mechanical stress. For this, the undamped, i.e. without the damper mounted, amplitude of the periodic twisting motion, i.e. the torsion, along the snowboard edge, and consequently at a plurality of locations along the elongated body, was measured and the peak amplitude measured. The so determined location of highest mechanical stress is about halfway between the position of peak amplitude and the snowboard tip. As recited in paragraph 11 of A3, this approximation technique gives a quickly obtainable technique for approximating locations of highest mechanical stress. Paragraph 6 of A3 defines that considerable damping of torsional modes and the reduction of chatter takes place when dampers are placed at the location of highest mechanical stress. These are the so-called sweet spots, and the last part of the argument is over. The skilled person knows from A2 paragraph 5 that dampers need to be placed near the sweet spot and is taught by A3 to select the location of the sweet spot by A3's approximation technique, which means that a damper can be placed at the approximated sweet spot without it being necessary to repeatedly mount the damper to find out whether it is in the right position, thus saving time. This straightforward combination of A3's approximation technique with A2's method of mounting a damper leads directly to the method claimed in Claim 6, which consequently cannot involve an inventive step. Claim 6 is thus in contravention of Article 56 EPC. This argument attracted 14 marks, which supposes that it should be shorter than the argument that I've written. This represents about 21 minutes of writing time. All in all, the total arguments for lack of inventive step could lead to a maximum score of 66 marks. Therefore, if you want to pass the C paper, you would do well to spend some practice time on how you develop attacks for lack of inventive step. Here then are some thoughts on writing the arguments. Writing the arguments is time consuming. You should allow about 2.5 hours for writing time, adjusted according to your personal preference. The sooner you start to write, meaning the less well developed is your plan, the longer it may take you to write the answer. On the other hand, the later you start to write, you need to write faster and or shorter. You have to work out the best balance that suits you for when to start writing. When writing under exam conditions, as soon as you have finished one argument, review your plan and the documents you need for the next argument before you start writing it, so have a little gap. On the other hand, when you are practicing, prepare each argument and check that the planned attack is correct. Then write the argument under time conditions. 10 available marks represents 15 minutes writing time. It's best to practice writing correct answers, which is practicing to pass the exam, than to practice writing poor answers, which is practicing how to fail the exam. As the writing of the arguments is grueling, I'll let you have some ideas on taking breaks during the C paper exam. So writing of the arguments is arduous. It tests your endurance and requires sustained concentration. You should allow some time for breaks to rest your writing hand and to gather your thoughts. During the C paper overall, you can allow some time for active breaks between sustained assimilation of the facts, planning, and writing stages. In other words, when you have completed your novelty matrix, allow a little short time before you start the planning to review the novelty matrix in a relaxed fashion. When your plan is finished, do the formal aspects, which is filling up the form and the formal aspects of the statement. This provides an interlude which allows some time for your plan to settle. During the writing of the attacks, after writing each attack, stop writing while you gather your papers and thoughts for the next attack. In other words, prepare your papers that you need for the next attack, and then after a short break, start writing again. What, however, happens if you are running short of time to finish your answer? Given the amount of work you have to do to process an opposition paper, it's quite likely that you will be hard pushed to finish in time. Therefore, you have to plan to cope with this very likely scenario. Therefore, if you are running short of time to finish your answer during the exam, first you should react in sufficient time, say half an hour before the end of the exam. Second, then check your plan to see where you are and to see which attacks remain. Thirdly, try to complete all attacks in the time left, as necessary, writing the attacks in note form. Before you write each attack, review your notes and then write fast. For each attack, the part on the closest prior art differentiating feature, the effect and the problem can easily be written in note form. You don't have to write long, fancy sentences for those things. However, for the reasons for obviousness, you should be more extensive in your argument. Say you have 2 attacks left for lack of inventive step with half an hour to go. In my opinion, it's practically impossible to write 2 full attacks for lack of inventive step in 30 minutes. But you can write 2 or even 3 attacks for lack of inventive step in note form in that time. Now, some final thoughts. If you spend much more than 5 hours doing a paper C during your preparations, don't despair. Before you attempt to write a full paper C under exam timing, you should do 2 or 3 papers in what I call a full preparation mode, that is analyzing everything as you go along and correcting as you go along, so you gradually learn and become more proficient. To achieve a pass mark or better than a pass mark in the C paper, it's important to present all of the expected attacks or nearly all of the expected attacks. In the C paper is always designed so that there is only one correct solution as concerns the expected attacks, and you have to find that selected solution. If you present all of the expected attacks to pass, you only have to get just over half of the marks available for each attack. If you miss several attacks and substitute wrong attacks, your writing of the expected attacks has to be quasi-perfect for you to succeed. Anyway, to survive in the exam, you should practice writing good pre-prepared attacks under time conditions, and your assimilation and planning phases are all important in coming to the right attacks. Some more final remarks. Wow, my personal remark is that the 2015 paper was a difficult one to finish in time with a complete answer. The more complete your answer, the more difficult it is to finish in time. A fairly sure way to get above the pass level for paper C is to present all good attacks backed up with reasonably short arguments, bringing in a fair amount of relevant facts. I don't mean that your attacks should be totally mediocre, but so say medium quality attacks, and you shouldn't try to get perfect attacks, perfect arguments against each attack. So that brings us to an end, and I would like to congratulate you if you've followed part 1, part 2, and part 3 of the tutorial all the way through. I hope you will also enjoy the other tutorials in the series. This brings our tutorial on opposition EQE paper C to an end. I hope it has been of value to you. Be on the lookout for upcoming tutorials on other EQE subjects that will be announced on PatSkills Blogspot and available on YouTube. Key in EQE Cronin, you will get all of the published tutorials. For further guidance on EQE preparation, you can consult the book EQE Comprehensive, available from shopmybooks.com. Search word patent. A bientôt.